Welcome into Rob Bradshank's Pop Culture. And today's show, we are celebrating today is July 4th as of the recording, which is American Independence Day. And we are going to talk today about some of the founding fathers of our country. Today we celebrate the Declaration of Independence, which was signed back on July 4th, 1776. It was the first part of the signing. There were some signatures that didn't get on until months later, but it is one of our founding documents which established the United States of America as a country. That's why we celebrate today. That's why it's important to us. We shoot off in fireworks as a traditional celebration. We do barbecues and get together, and it's a wonderful, fun celebration. What I wanted to talk about today is kind of the fate of some of our founding fathers after they signed the Declaration of Independence. There were 56 men who signed the Declaration. They came from everywhere. There were doctors, lawyers. One was a pastor, several businessmen. They came from all walks of life, and each of them pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establish our country. Some of them we're going to learn about today sacrificed even more than that, and I want to kind of go over them with you. Now, folks, you know some of the usual names that signed the Declaration. You have, obviously Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, who both went on to be presidents of the United States. And then you have, of course, Benjamin Franklin, who went on to be a diplomat, and he was very strategic with France and diplomacy with the French. So I'm going to talk about 18 of them. A couple you may know that are well-known names, but a couple you may not know. And I just wanted to make sure that we understood and learned about what some of these men sacrificed. Thank you so much to all you guys who are watching live. Thank you to those who are watching the live stream after it's been posted. I'm just so thankful for all my subscribers and everybody who watches. I want to recognize, see Swift -1. Hello to you. You're out there in the chat. Thank you for being here. I realize it's Independence Day, and a lot of people are probably out and about with family and friends celebrating, but I want to throw a live stream together to talk about just our founding fathers. And how does this relate to pop culture? Well, without our founding fathers and without our document, the Declaration of Independence, we don't really have a country, and we have no pop culture to go to. So, that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. So let's get into this. Let's talk a little bit about the Declaration. Let me bring up slides. We're going to go through 18 men on here and talk about them and just what they did after that. And so this is a very famous painting of the Declaration, and this is the signing committee. Of course, there's Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin that you may know. There are two other men that are on there. One of them I'm actually related to, and that would be Roger Sherman right here. We will talk about him. So this is them presenting the Declaration, and then it got ratified and then eventually signed. There were a couple of states that took a little bit longer for their members to sign it. We may touch on that a little bit, but let's talk about the Declaration itself before we talk about the men. So the Declaration of Independence, it's such an important document. And I'm just going to read part of it to you today because I just feel it's very important that we go over kind of the first part of it because it's just so important to us as members of the United States of America. So I'm going to read the first paragraph and part of the second here. So in Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous decision, the unanimous declaration of 13 United States of the 13 United States of America. There were 13 colonies, 13 United States of America. Jefferson so eloquently puts this: when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which implement or impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's the part of the Declaration. We're all very familiar with it. It's just a beautiful document. Jefferson's words are very eloquent. Basically, the rest of it kind of goes into why we were separating from the British government, and really the tyrant at the time, King George, why we felt that he was a tyrant and how he treated the colonies at that time. So this was the founding document of our country. Now, let's get into some of these men. A few of them at the beginning, you're going to recognize. Some of them you may not know. But I wanted to talk about, I picked about 18 men because I thought their stories were interesting. All 56 are very important. I just didn't feel like it would be a very good live stream if we went over all 56 men. Certainly all of them were outstanding and deserve all the credit they get. But I just singled out these 18 men because I felt like their stories were interesting and unique, especially after signing the Declaration. So let's get into it, and let's talk about our first man here, John Hancock. So, folks, you probably are familiar with John Hancock. He's a very famous name. He's very famous at the time, very wealthy individual. But the British did see some of his shipping and really caused him to go into politics. And he was president of the Continental Congress at the time that the Declaration was drafted. And you'll note that his signature is one of the largest. It was the first signature on it, on the document. So the interesting thing about him is, although his finances suffered greatly because of the war, he funded a lot of it. The good thing about him is after the war, and during the war, he still gave to the poor, helped support widows and orphans, and loaned money to friends. According to biographer William Fowler, John Hancock was a generous man and people loved him. Basically, he was idolized throughout Massachusetts. And after the war, he was elected governor of Massachusetts. He was also elected to Congress again. He served. But basically, his health was failing. His health was not good even when he was president of the Continental Congress. And he ended up succumbing to his illness and died at the age of 56 in 1793. Sorry, I'm reading it backwards. 1793. Very much a patriot. A lot of his wealth was not only lost by, his shipping and the British attacking it, but he also funded a lot of the men, the supplies, and everything else that went into the Revolutionary War. So he gave of himself and he gave of his fortune to that. So that's a very important thing that we mentioned with John Hancock. Another individual that you might know very well, especially if you drink beer too, Samuel Adams, which the beer was kind of named after him as well. Adams was a part of the Continental Congress. He signed the Declaration of Independence, and he was very opposed to British rule. He was viewed as a major threat by the British. They really thought Samuel Adams was one of the big wigs that they had to get rid of. Basically, British authorities thought he was such a threat that they offered pardons to all who lay down their arms after the Battle of Lexington and Concord, except for Adams and who we previously mentioned, John Hancock. And let me get to the picture of Adams. This is a picture of John Adams. So, that's how important these men were. The fact that the British would basically allow pardons after Lexington and Concord to anybody who laid down their arms except these two men. Wow, kind of interesting. So after the war, Adams was very much in the state of Massachusetts. He drafted their constitution. He served as governor right after Hancock, and he died in October of 1803. His hometown newspaper remembered him as the father of the American Revolution. And certainly Samuel Adams was a very key figure in the Revolutionary War and in the Revolution. I want to mention those two guys. Of course, you're very familiar with, Jefferson, Adams, Franklin. I think these five guys are probably the most popular and the most common known. But I wanted to mention the first two just because both of them contributed significantly to the war effort with their fortunes. And so a lot of these guys, given their fortunes, they did that. And then they contributed serving their state afterwards. So it's really big. The next person I'm going to go to, and these are kind of in alphabetical order. Part of it is because reading about him, it was easier to write up the information in alphabetical order. So we're going to go to Josiah Bartlett. Okay, so Josiah Bartlett, this is his picture right here. So he was a fervent advocate for American independence. That when voting for independence, Bartlett reportedly made the rafters shake with his loudness of his approval. So he was the first to cheer it on. He was among the first to vote for independence and risked his own personal safety by enlisting the militia for New Hampshire. So he's from the state of New Hampshire. His home was actually burned to the ground by British loyalists. So he sacrificed a lot. He sacrificed his home for this. He also played a key role in drafting the New Hampshire state constitution after the war, and he was the Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court. He also became the first governor of New Hampshire, and he died May 19th, 1795 at the age of 65. He also was a doctor and made contributions in medicine, and his politics fundamentally shaped our nation. So Josiah Bartlett, very much a person who gave a lot for his country. And like I said, his home was burned to the ground. If you think about it, these men met in Philadelphia and they left their homes. And, you know, when word got out about them and what they were doing, the British would attack their homes, attack their families, and burn their houses and burn their land. So he sacrificed there. Okay. The next person we're going to talk about is Carter Braxton. And let's see a picture of Carter. It's a picture of him. Carter Braxton. He joined the Virginia House of Burgesses, which was prior to the Continental Congress. He was born in a delegate for the Continental Congress from there. He was a little bit reluctant, but came to support the independence and signed the Declaration, risking his wealth and the status and process. So, he's another one that heavily invested in the Patriot cause. So he funded the Continental Navy specifically and their military efforts. Now, that's no small feat there because the British Navy was the most powerful in the world at the time. And going up against the British Navy was the most difficult thing that anybody could ever do. They pretty much ran the entire world, the entire waterways of the world. And so for him to fund our Navy and the military efforts was quite an expense. Many of his ships and ventures were lost to British blockades and wartime destruction. He was once one of Virginia's wealthiest men, but he took on tremendous debt due to his commitment to the cause. So, as we mentioned, I mean, this guy gave up all his fortune for this. And so, if you think about it, really, I mean, had they not gone in independence, this guy could have just stayed rich and stayed, comfortable. But no, he decided to give up all of that for a cause he believed in. It's very admirable. So, after the war, he served in Virginia in their state government, and he died in October 1797 at the age of 61 after sacrificing most of his fortune in support of American freedom. So, it's interesting how we look at these men and realize that, yes, a lot of them were wealthy, but they gave up all their fortune just to sacrifice it for our country. And that's a very noble thing to do. Let's talk about the next one. Charles Carroll of Carrollton. So here is his picture. And he was from Maryland, and he played a crucial role here. Maryland's revolution for independence, and he was very key in securing that. He served in the Second Continental Congress, where he risked his life and fortune to sign the Declaration. One specter said to have remarked that after Carroll signed the Declaration, there go a few millions. So we think of today sports athletes signing for millions and millions of dollars, and wow, there go a lot of millions that they're going to get. Well, this guy signed several $1 million away for this. Now, think about it. $1 million back then was even more than we think about it today. I mean, probably 3 or 4 times that. I don't have the exact financial calculations, but if you think about it, that's quite a bit. He was a major financier of the Revolution. He drafted the Maryland Constitution and was instrumental in the state's ratification of the U.S. Constitution as well. From 1789 to 1792. Sorry, I keep getting my 7s and 9s mixed up. I don't know why. He was Maryland's first U.S. senator, which was great. He was devoted to God, family, and country. He died at the age of 95, dying November 14th of 1832, and was the longest living and last surviving signer of the Declaration. So he lived a very robust life, sacrificing a lot for his country and everything that he believed in. Very much signer of the Declaration, was key in ratifying the Constitution in 1789, and was the senator. So, very much a servant, gave his fortune as well to our cause. And I want to recognize a couple of people that have jumped in. Talk to Swift -1. Thank you for joining us. And Matt Tuine is here. Welcome, Matt. Glad you're here. Glad you can make it. Folks, please say hi in the chat. We'd love to talk to you. And then, folks, if you know anything about the Founding Fathers or want to mention any of the Founding Fathers or have anything else about our wonderful country and this wonderful day of independence that we're celebrating, feel free to share it in the chat. I love the fact that we can share these stories together and we can talk about this. So let's get to our next Founding Father, Abraham Clark. And here's a picture of Abraham. So when New Jersey's original delegates opposed independence at the Continental Congress, the state convention replaced them with 6 new delegates, including Clark. So he's a replacement. He signed the Declaration in 1776 and remained a steady presence in the Continental Congress. He served simultaneously in the state legislature as well. And during the war, 2 of his sons were captured and imprisoned by the British aboard the Jersey prison ship. So this guy, like I mentioned, the British, when they found out these men were involved in the Continental Congress and signing this declaration, they would capture, family members. And that's what happened with Clark. So after the war, Clark was attended the Annapolis Convention of 1786, addressing the weakness of the Articles of Confederation. Basically, that was kind of the preamble to the Constitution. So you had the Articles of Confederation, and those documents helped spring something on for the Constitution, which was another great document that we celebrate. And it's very important to us as well because it gives us our laws and our background. Pardon me, sorry about that. Had to cough real quick. So he was one of the, delegates to that. And though illness preventing him from attending the Constitutional Convention, he lobbied for the inclusion of the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 articles in the Constitution and are so very important. And I noticed a couple of people have joined up. JD Play Nice, happy Independence Day. Thank you so much. Wanted to say thank you for leaving a like and saying hi. Be safe and fun. Take care of your crew and rock. So thank you, JD Play Nice, for being here. Certainly appreciate you coming by. Happy Independence Day to you and to everybody out there. Okay, so back to Clark. So he was ill and wasn't able to attend the Constitutional Convention, but he lobbied heavily for the Bill of Rights, which is so very important. The first 10 articles in the Constitution. Later years, he was elected to the 2nd and 3rd U.S. Congresses. He died of a heat stroke in September of 1794, having dedicated his life to the birth of our nation. So very thankful for him. And as you can see his picture right here. Some of these pictures weren't full color. Some of them are taken off of portraits. The best I can do and find on the website. But I wanted to put a face with the name and really talk about these guys. The next person that we're going to talk about is William Floyd. And William Floyd was chosen to represent Suffolk County in the Continental Congress. He served until 1777 and then again in 1779. He was also in the militia and was a major general in the militia. Our Madman 4 has entered the chat and want to say, he said, "Hi, Rob, happy 4th. Yeah, these men knew on signing that their lives, their livelihood, and families were subject to the suffering under English tyranny." Absolutely. Thank you for being here, our Madman 4. Certainly appreciate you and everybody else who's here. Yes, definitely. These guys sacrificed a lot. He fled Connecticut. He fled to Connecticut with his wife and 3 children. The hardship of the war took a toll on his family. His wife died in 1781 after a prolonged illness and stress. And then after the war, he served several terms in the New York State Senate, supported the U.S. Constitution, and participated in the Constitutional Convention of 1801. He was elected to the first U.S. Congress, serving from 1789 to 1791. In later life, he invested in land in central New York, securing a state grant of over 10,000 acres. He spent summers developing the property and eventually relocated there, building a home near present-day Westerville, New York. He died in 1821 at the age of 86. So he was another one that lived a fairly long life and really contributed a lot to our country. He, serving in militia as a brigadier general was a big thing because back then you had the Continental Army and then you had several militia that helped out with the Continental Army, and a lot of militia were drafted in the Army, but you had all these militia that were helping for the cause, and that was very key. All right, let's move on to our next founding father, John Hart. So John Hart was selected to serve as one of the 5 delegates representing New Jersey in 1776. He signed the Declaration of Independence, and shortly after, he returned to New Jersey and served as Speaker of the General Assembly. In October that year, he attended an urgent family matter. His wife, Deborah, who had become ill, died in October of that year with John at her side. So he had to leave to attend to her health, and sadly, she passed away. Later that year, he was forced to flee from his home as the British invaded Hopewell. After American victories in Trenton and Princeton, Hart returned and was reelected Speaker in New Jersey, and served until November of 1778. He also invited George Washington and the Continental Army to encamp at his farm before the Battle of Monmouth, which I think is key and interesting because if you know anything about the Revolutionary War, Washington kept moving his men and didn't necessarily have, the barracks and the different homes and different places that were seized by the British. They were in fields and farms. And so Hart invited George Washington and his men. Some 12,000 troops stayed for days before marching on to victory. Unfortunately, John Hart died of kidney stones on May 11th, 1779. And that's another thing about these men. So this guy died of kidney stones, which are never a fun thing to deal with. If anybody's ever dealt with them, I have dealt with them personally, and they're not fun. So definitely take care of yourself. But in today's society, things like gout and kidney stones are very treatable diseases. Back then, they weren't as treatable, and they were hard to take care of and do, and could lead to death. So some of these men died from some things that today we have the medical technology and know how to help cure people from that. And so that's another thing that we should think about with these men and their hardships. And the other thing about it is that people in those days didn't live as long as they are living now today. So, very thankful for modern medicine that can cure some of these diseases. But John Hart died of kidney stones, which is sad. All right, let's talk about Thomas Haywood Jr. He's our next guy on here, and here's a picture of him. So 1776, selected the Second Continental Congress. He signed the Declaration. So during the war, he was captain of artillery in South Carolina militia. So another person that served in the militia in their state. He was wounded at the Battle of Beaufort. By the way, South Carolina, if you know anything about the Swamp Fox and the wonderful Mel Gibson movie about the independence, you'll find that he served in South Carolina, and South Carolina is where Mel Gibson's character was located. So, and basically, Thomas Heyward Jr. was captured by the British at the Siege of Charleston, and he was held as prisoner of war in St. Augustine, Florida. So he was taken from Charleston, and they drag him down to Florida. Now, Florida is interesting because the state of Florida was predominantly occupied by Spain, and part of it was occupied by the British. So he was released in 1781. So he served there a couple of years. During his imprisonment, he wrote a parody of God Save the King, which would be later known as God Save the 13 States. That's great. I think that's awesome. After the war, Heyward contributed to the rebuilding of civic life in South Carolina. He helped found the South Carolina Agricultural Society and served as its first president in 1785. He retired from public life in 1799 and died in 1809 at the age of 63. So The Patriot is the movie I was thinking about. I couldn't think of the name right then and there, but The Patriot, Mel Gibson. Fun movie, one of the few movies we have about the Revolutionary War. It takes place mainly in South Carolina, where our founding father that we're talking about, Heyward, was from. So pretty cool, pretty interesting tie to that movie. The fact that he was taken prisoner by the British is interesting. So, guys, we have people that whose sons were taken prisoner. We have guys who were actually taken prisoner. We have guys whose homes were burned. We have guys who lost their entire fortunes giving to this. These men sacrificed everything. And, this is why we're talking about them and why they're so important today. Okay, let's move to our next founding father, Francis Lewis. And here's a picture of Francis. He was elected to the Continental Congress in 1775, and he signed the Declaration of Independence on August 2nd, 1776, after New York granted formal approval. So some of these states took a little bit longer to formally ratify it and sign it, but it eventually all got signed by all these men. During the war, he supplied the Continental Army with clothing, weapons, and provisions. So yet another founding father who gave his fortune to supply the Continental Army. His home was pillaged by British troops. Yes, another one that had his home hurt. And his wife Elizabeth was captured and held under harsh conditions. So his wife was captured. So once again, family members captured. Though released in a prisoner exchange, she never recovered and died in 1789. So very sad. So I can't imagine what this guy went through. He gave all of his fortune to the army. His home was raided. His wife was captured. They were able to get her back in a prisoner exchange, but she was not in great condition, and she died not soon after that. I mean, talk about sad. Following her death, Lewis withdrew from politics and spent the remainder of years with his family. He died at the age of 89, so he actually lived a longer life in 1809. His heart in 1802, not 1809, 1802. So, gosh, I can't imagine what he went through. And yeah, I would think that after losing your wife, and some people close to you, that you'd want to spend more time with your family after that. And that's what he did. Okay, let's talk about Thomas McKean. He's our next founding father here. Okay, so Thomas McKean, he held office in both Pennsylvania and Delaware, which was unusual back then. And he contributed to both states' constitutions. In 1777, he became Chief Justice of Pennsylvania Supreme Court, serving for 22 years. He also served as a colonel during the Revolutionary War, which yet another, I think that's three of the ones that we've discussed who served in the military at some point, which is why I wanted to talk about these guys, because some of them actually not only served as a delegate, but they served in the military. So he became president of the Continental Congress as well when John Hancock had to step down due to health reasons. I signed the Articles of Confederation and the Declaration of Independence, one of the few founding fathers who did that. After the war, he helped secure Pennsylvania's ratification of the U.S. Constitution. As a judge, he supported the principle of judicial review well before it was nationally established. So that's a very key thing. I'm not going to get into it. I would say look it up because judicial review is a very key aspect of our Constitution, a very key aspect of our lives today. He later served 3 terms as governor of Pennsylvania, surviving political opposition and an attempted impeachment, which is crazy. At age 80, he helped organize citizens to defend Philadelphia during the War of 1812. So this guy really did a lot. A very key person of Pennsylvania and even Delaware in our lives in our country, and it's amazing. Did I say Delaware? I meant Delaware. Sorry, I thought New Hampshire first, but no, Delaware. So Thomas McKean, very key person in our history. Can you believe that? I mean, he served in the military. He signed both the Articles of Confederation, which is kind of the precursor to the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. He was a colonel in the Continental Congress, and at the age of 80, he still organized troops for war in the War of 1812. Very remarkable man. All right, let's talk about our next founding father, Arthur Middleton. And this is him. So he has a unique story. His father became ill, and his father was elected to the Continental Congress. So when his father became ill, he replaced him in the Continental Congress, and he signed the Declaration of Independence. He supported additional military aid in the South, which was key because really a lot of the battles were coming up in the North, but also you had Cornwallis in the South. And if the South, if he was able to march northward, it might have been the end of the Revolution. So supporting the South during the Revolution was key. He later returned to South Carolina and fought in the Battle of Charleston. So yet another person who not only served as a member of Congress, but also fought. He was captured by the British forces and held for a year. So yet another guy that was captured by the British. After his release, Middleton rejoined the Continental Congress, where he was a strong advocate for punitive actions against British military leaders, including Lord Cornwallis. Following the war, he rebuilt his damaged plantation. So yes, he lost his home. Served in the state legislature and became a trustee of the College of Charleston. So very key representative there. The fact that he decided to serve in the place of his father who became ill is another key aspect of this guy's life. And I'm so very thankful for that. Lombardi, 1969. Glad you're here. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming in. All right. So the next person we're going to talk about is John Morton. And here's a picture of him. He served in both the First and Second Continental Congress and contributed to drafting the Articles of Confederation, which were ratified after his death. A most consequential act came in 1776, when among the Pennsylvania's 7 delegates, 2 voted no, 2 abstained, and 2 voted yes. Morton cast the deciding vote for independence, securing Pennsylvania's support. So you had to have certain people vote in favor of it, and they could vote by states to see what the state overall discussed. And you can see this in, there's a musical, 1776. You'll see this very act played out. 2 voted no, 2 abstained, and 2 voted yes. One of the yes votes was Benjamin Franklin, who was a delegate of Pennsylvania, and John Morton was the deciding vote. So very key person and a very key state. Pennsylvania was one of the larger states at the time, and it was one of the big supporters of independence, and a lot went on in Pennsylvania during this time. Of course, they're in Philadelphia signing this, so very key state. Unfortunately, he died in the spring of 1777 at the age of 51 from tuberculosis, yet another medical treatable disease today. but not uncommon for people to die of. Facing criticism for his vote, Morton's final message to his detractors was, "Tell them they shall live to see the hour when they shall acknowledge it to have been the most glorious service I ever rendered to my country." What a bold statement. And he was actually one of the first founding fathers to die as well, because he died in 1777. Very thankful for John Morton. Not a lot of people talk about him, but he was so key. And, for him to stand up to his detractors and say that they'll live to see that he was important. Yes, we're living today to see how important he was and how important this Declaration of Independence was to our country. All right, let's talk about Thomas Nelson Jr. So there's a statue of him right here. Between 1775 and 1777, Nelson served the Continental Congress, proudly supporting the cause of independence. In 1781, he was elected to replace Thomas Jefferson as governor of Virginia. To repeal the British invasion, the legislature granted him robust powers to effectively defend Virginia. And guess what? He was brigadier general as well. He raised in the militia. He raised volunteer troops and led the militia alongside Washington and Rochambeau. He besieged the British in his hometown, Yorktown. According to family tradition, Nelson told Washington to aim and fire at his home when he heard it was occupied by the British. So yes, here we go. Another person whose home was captured by the British. And instead of destroying it, they used it as headquarters. So he told Washington, hey, though I'll miss my home, go ahead and target it and destroy it because the British are occupying my home. Very interesting. Nelson was among the signers of the Declaration to make good on his pledge to give his fortune to the cause of independence. He gave his entire fortune. And he died poor in 1789, leaving behind his wife and 11 children. So very sad how he passed away, but he gave it all for our country and for our independence. So, think about this. He had a wife and 11 children. He had his own home and plantation. This guy could have lived a long and happy life as a wealthy man, but because of the cause of independence, he raised a militia, served in the army, gave all his money to the militia and to the cause of independence, gave his home that was captured by the British and he had destroyed, gave everything he had to them. And unfortunately, there was nothing left for his wife and 11 children after he passed away. But for him to sacrifice this was unique and certainly deserves our love and respect and thanks. All right, another guy who sacrificed a lot, Caesar Rodney. And let me tell you about this guy. Here's a picture of him. Yeah, have we not a cause, our madman for? Yes, very much so. All right, Caesar Rodney. His defining moment was in July, the 1st of July in 1776, when despite battling asthma and disfiguring facial cancer. So this guy had asthma and facial cancer. So asthma was not very well treatable back then as it is today. Thank goodness for that, because I know friends and family members who have asthma. Unfortunately, inhalers and medicine today help that. But this guy had facial cancer. Yikes. Ouch. Oh my goodness. I can't imagine what this guy was going through health-wise. He rode 80 miles through a thunderstorm in the dead of night from Dover to Philadelphia. So long way, with illness in the middle of a rainstorm back then, and probably, hopefully a coach, but who knows? It could have been on horseback. It doesn't say here, but my goodness, he rode all the way, arriving at Independence Hall on July 2nd, spurs clinking. He broke Delaware's deadlock, which was key. Like we said, basically the delegates had to vote for the state and the state had its own vote. So he broke their deadlock, casting decisive vote for the Declaration of Independence. It was an act of duty, courage, and treason that cemented his patriotic legacy. As a wartime governor and major general, Rodney led Delaware's militia and supported Washington's Continental Army with all the money, supplies, and manpower his state could muster. So, yet again, another guy that served in the military along with serving in the Continental Congress, supported everybody with supplies and all his fortune. And he had cancer and asthma. Wow. At the low moment for the revolutionary cause, he secured military equipment with money from his own pocket. Later, the Continental Congress elected him president of Delaware, 1778, a position he used to stabilize the state's war-torn finances and politics. After the war, Rodney's health deteriorated under the strain of cancer. Yeah, cancer unfortunately does that to people, and yikes. He became too ill to remain in political life, but as a final gesture of respect for Rodney's honorable sacrifice to Delaware, the 1783-84 Legislative Council elected him as Speaker. He died in June of 1784, leaving behind no children, but rather a nation shaped by his sacrifice. Yes, what a sacrifice it was. And our Amendment 4, have we not a cause? Absolutely. Well spoken, well said. Yes, I mean, my goodness, the fact that this guy did all this with illness and gave everything and didn't have anything to show afterwards, but he shaped a nation, which was key. So very thankful for him. So a few more to go over here, folks. Edward Rutledge is the next man that we're going to talk about. And let's get his picture up here. You know what, guys? I may have accidentally skipped a slide because that is Roger Sherman. I don't know if I've got a picture of Rutledge. I apologize for that, guys. I was trying my best to get these pictures on there, but we'll talk about him nonetheless. I apologize for that. Initially, Rutledge favored reconciliation with the British. So there were some of the guys that did, want to reconcile with the British and try and work things out. But he supported the Declaration of Independence, reportedly persuading the South Carolina delegation to vote in the affirmative. So he had a change of heart. He was an American patriot. He served as captain in the Charleston Artillery Battalion during the Revolutionary War. He was captured by the British during the 1780 siege of Charleston and was imprisoned until a prisoner exchange in July of 1781. So this is what the third guy that we're talking about that not only served in the military but was captured by the British. Crazy. Some of these guys were captured and held. After the war, he returned to South Carolina, serving the state legislature from 1782 to 1798. He fought against opening the African slave trade and voted to ratify the U.S. Constitution. Elected governor in 1798, Rutledge died in office at the age of 50. So, this guy served in the Continental Congress, had a change of heart, ratified the Constitution, encouraged other people to do it, served as a patriot in the militia, and was captured, was freed, served in the legislature, and he voted against the slave trade, which was big in the South. He was in South Carolina. So, we founded our country, and guys, we're not perfect. I'm not going to address, slavery. We fought a war to end it, and thank goodness we did. It was very wrong, but there's some of these founding fathers wanted to end slavery at this point, and unfortunately, we couldn't get it passed to end it at that point. But less than 100 years later, we fought a war to do it. So thankful that we did. Slavery is very wrong, and I'm happy that we finally did it. I wish we could have done it in 1776, but we eventually did it in 1863 with the Emancipation Proclamation. But folks, I wanted to mention this because the seeds were there, and the United States started to work towards it, and we had to fight a war for it, but we eventually got there. So, folks, while we weren't perfect in our founding, we're not a perfect country by any means. We've tried to do the right thing, And I would hope, just as Americans, we definitely did the right thing years later. So let's talk about the next guy on this list. And the next picture I'm going to show you, I'm actually related to him, Roger Sherman. So Roger Sherman, I'm related to him through my dad's mother. It goes back to, in various areas, the Andersons and a couple other families. And so I'm related to Roger Sherman through her. He was a delegate from Connecticut, and he was a member of Connecticut's General Assembly. He was appointed to the Committee of Five who helped ratify the Declaration of Independence. So he's part of the original framers of the Declaration. So very key person. Though he didn't fully write it as Jefferson did, he was one of the guys that contributed significantly to it. Following the War for Independence, I participated in the Constitutional Convention, and one of the key aspects of the Constitution of the United States, if you read about it, is the Great Compromise, which is known as the Connecticut Compromise. Basically, it separated the legislature, equal state representation in the Senate, and population represented in the House. So the Connecticut Compromise was key to what we have today. You have a Senate that's 50 members that has 2 delegates from each state, and then you have the population of each state, which determines House of Representatives members. So this is very key, very, very, very important aspect of legislation that Roger Sherman did. And Roger Sherman is one of the few that signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. He was also elected mayor of New Haven, Connecticut, held the position concurrently alongside with others until his death. He was elected to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives in 1789. In 1791, he was chosen to fill a vacancy in the Senate. And then, unfortunately, 2 years later, in 1793, he fell ill with typhoid fever and passed away. So Roger Sherman, very much a key figure in United States history. So thankful to be related to him. Just lucky and very, very grateful. My brother, I want to give a shout out to him real quick. He did a lot of the genealogy along with several other family members, but my brother did the most recent updates, and my brother was able to find out a lot about who we were related to and could trace a lot of our family back to the founding of our country. And I'm so grateful for all the work that he did and all the work that other family members had done that my brother was able to collect from this. So really cool, and just very fortunate with my family history to be related to this guy. Okay. Got a couple more here before we end the live stream here. A couple more founding fathers to talk about. Richard Stockton. So Richard Stockton was more of a moderate. He was dedicated to the cause of American independence, though, and elected to the Continental Congress in 1776. So the key thing with him after he signed the Declaration in November, while attempting to evacuate his family from Princeton, he was again captured by the British. So that makes 4 of them that were captured by the British in New Jersey. And he was imprisoned in New York, treated with the inhumane severity. He was released in the early days of 1777. So he was, the other guys, prison exchange, released a couple of years later. This guy was treated with inhumane severity and was released in the early days of 1777 in poor health. When he was released, he discovered the British troops had occupied and partially burned his home. So this guy signed the Declaration, was captured by the British while attempting to get his family out of Princeton, and he was treated harshly, and then he was released. He was in poor health, and then found out his entire home was burned. Just, wow, very sad. Sadly, he died of cancer in February of 1781 at the age of 50. So, I mean, my goodness, the guy really sacrificed it all. I mean, another man who was imprisoned and sacrificed his home and his family. I mean, my goodness. All right. So the last founding father that we're going to talk about today is George Walton. And here's a picture of George. He was appointed delegate of the Continental Congress. Though he arrived much after the debate, he heard John Adams' speech and later wrote, "Since the first day of July, 1776, my conduct has corresponded with the result of that great question to which you so ably and faithfully developed on that day." So basically, John Adams gave a speech in favor of the Declaration, and George Walton was so moved by that speech that he definitely became in favor of the Declaration and signed it. So he was commissioned a colonel in 1778 and was injured and captured during the siege of Savannah. So again, another person that served the military and was captured. He was from Georgia, by the way. After his release in 1779, he was elected governor of Georgia, though he served briefly before returning to Congress. So he returned to Congress after that. In 1783, Walton became Chief Justice of Georgia, later serving another term as governor in 1789, during which he helped adopt the state constitution. Though invited to the continent to attend the Federal Constitutional Convention, he declined and served as a state Superior Court Justice and briefly served in the U.S. Senate. He died in Augusta, Georgia in 1804. So, yet another man who basically served the military, was captured by the British, and was released, and then continued to serve his state and the country. So that's 18 of these men. There were 56 in all. There's so many other stories. Folks, if you've got any stories or any footnotes about the Declaration of Independence, or have anything to say about any of these men or any other members of the delegation who signed it, let me know in the comments below. But I just am so thankful for our country and thankful for these men. And, I wanted to do a video just talking about the sacrifices that these guys made and what they did for our country, because I think it needs to be known. And folks, definitely look up all 56 men, because all of them gave a lot. As mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, at the very end, they gave their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor. And these men paid it all. And today we celebrate what they gave us with their freedom of our country. Folks, I just want to say thank you so much for watching live, or if you're watching this afterwards, thank you so much for watching my videos. I certainly appreciate each and every one of you. So thankful for our country. Today's the 4th of July as we're filming it. I hope everybody has a happy and safe 4th of July. Be careful with the fireworks. I hope you're able to, celebrate with your family and friends, and really get out and really think about just how much, how important our country and our foundation was to us. And as we celebrate, our Man 4 has something else here. Suggested reads. So thank you so much. Yeah, these are great things. Plymouth Plantation, the actual Declaration of Independence. Yes, please look it up and read it, especially today. The Constitution and the amendments. Yes, the Constitution, especially the preamble and the Bill of Rights, very key. The Federalist Papers, which were the precursor of the Constitution. Common Sense. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Common Sense, folks. That is a great book, and Common Sense is great. The Anti-Federalist Papers, which is interesting because it brings up some of the things that were compromised into our Constitution today, and the Articles of Confederation, which is very key to each of the documents. Thank you, R. Man 4, for all those suggestions. Yes, very, very important to read some of these documents. One of the things that happened here is you had people with different views on law and establishing the country, and they kind of came together and were able to see compromises that we see in both the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution. And that helped found our country and helped found our freedoms that we share today. Thank you so much for those suggestions. Folks, feel free to share any stories or anything else about these men. So thankful for their sacrifice, so thankful for our country. I hope everybody has a wonderful, safe, and happy 4th of July. Folks, coming up, I will do my wrap up on Band of Brothers on Sunday. I've got a special guest with both Heather and I. That is Marty Morgan. He was the historian on my tour. I'm going to show pictures of it, and Marty's going to help explain some of the things we learned about Band of Brothers and about World War II. So if you're around, please check that out. Also, just so you guys know, coming up on my channel, I'm actually got a ticket to see the new Superman movie on Tuesday, the 8th. So I'll give a reaction to that and a review probably before a lot of people see it. So stay tuned to that. I'm not going to spoil any of the movie for you, but I'll tell you whether it's good or not. And I'll probably compare it to my favorite Superman movies, which were the first 2 Christopher Reeve movies. And we'll even talk about that. I'll even compare it to Henry Cavill's Superman as well, if you'd like. But stay tuned for that on the channel. And with that, I'd like to leave you guys and hope you have a happy and safe 4th. Please share and like. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Try and deal with pop culture and a little bit of pop culture history. Got a lot of great things coming down the pipe. After Band of Brothers, we're going to do the Pacific, which is coming up. And then we'll do Masters of the Air. And then we'll talk about World War II movies. So a lot of fun coming down the pipe. And also, we'll continue our music. 1973 is up this month as well. So take care, everybody. Have a very happy 4th of July. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you on the next one.